Hey, family of faith. Hope everyone's doing well. It's Wednesday Bible study time. I just want to let you know there are some schedule changes coming. Not sure what they're totally going to be. I got an idea what's going to happen. There's going to be probably maybe 3 Bible studies in a row that are going to be in person at the church. And then after that, I think it'll be like the last Wednesday of that month. Will be open. We won't have Bible study. We'll have small group and maybe some other things going on. But stay tuned. I'm not totally sure how that's going to work out, but we're trying to map it out now. So I'll see about the online, how that's going to work. I still want to have an online presence, and we're working with our media team to determine exactly what that's going to look like. Okay. So I'm not going to be long this evening. I'm going to talk a little bit about something that is vitally important to keep you spiritually healthy, spiritually motivated, and leaning forward with your walk with God. And that is this: you have to stay away from condemnation and judgment. You have to stay away, and we're living in a time where, oh my God, it's so much fighting and so much tribalism and so much condemnation, and people who are not identifying people's weaknesses for the sake of prayer or the sake of just trying to understand who they are. But what they're doing is we're casting stones at each other, even to the point where we're doing something that, to me, is very, very dangerous. We're demonizing people who don't agree with us, who don't see life like we see it. And it puts us in a very bad position. It puts us in a bad position as a nation, as a community, and inside of a company, in a family. It puts us in a bad situation because a house divided, according to Jesus, will not stand, but it will always fall. And so we don't have to worry about another country conquering us militarily or cyber attacking us until our economy fails. I think we're going to do a good job of it ourselves. And it's so bad that now people have stopped listening to each other. They've stopped having debate and argument. And if you disagree, they feel real comfortable labeling you as the enemy, as evil, as somebody who has no value, not even to God. So that's dangerous territory, because Jesus warns that if you judge like that, if you condemn a person, if you become angry with your brother without a real cause, that you're going to be judged. And Jesus even warns that if you devalue that person, and in your eyes, he's not even worthy or valuable to God, therefore you can almost dehumanize him, that you're in danger of hellfire, of Gehenna. So anyway, I think we need to think about this, and I think we need to withdraw from picking a side. If you vote Democrat, vote Democrat. You vote Republican, vote Republican. But vote those ways on issues that have to do with bettering our community, our country. Vote your conscience. If you're a Christian, vote your morality. That's cool. But don't get into these tribes where you vilify and demonize the people that don't agree or don't vote like you vote. Okay, it's very important. I'm gonna read Matthew 7, and I can say this because, man, I have trouble with this, because I see what's going on, and I feel myself caught in between, because on the one hand, there's so much hatred. I definitely can't get with the extreme right, with the Nazis and the racists, and I can't get with the extreme left either. I'm not that liberal when it comes to morality, to where a person who is a man can decide he's not a man. He is anything he wants to decide for himself to be. I believe as a Christian that God created us a certain kind of way. And I have that right to believe that. And because I don't believe like somebody else who believes about sexual identity, it doesn't mean that person has a right to vilify me or to say I'm some kind of a bigot or something. It's not true. I just believe now, and I'm talking about how I believe is that people, for the most part, choose what they want to do. Now I'm not going to get into the scientific debate. It's not really why I'm on here right now, but that maybe is for another lesson to really talk about that. Because if scientifically people are predisposed to be a certain kind of way, despite what they are outwardly, then that's a different thing. We got to take a look at that, But anyway, I digress. I want to talk about judgment. Very important that you get out of the seat of judgment. Do not judge your brother or your sister. Do not judge people in church. They know they're sinning. If they don't know it, God will let them know. You are not the sin police. You're not to run around and check people's fruit. That is not what God called us to do. Okay, so stay away from that. I'm going to read starting in Matthew, the 7th chapter. We are really into kingdom building. So going forward, I'll probably be doing a lot of teaching from the words and the teaching of Christ to the best of my ability. I'm trying to study and kind of get caught up on some of the teachings of Christ, because they're deeper than sometimes what we understand. Okay, he says this: don't pick on people. This is the Message version. Don't pick on people, jump on their failures, criticize their faults, unless, of course, you want the same treatment. There's always this warning and this understanding. Matter of fact, there's an understanding in Jewish thought that if for example, if I'm committing adultery, I don't have the right to sit on a seat of judgment of another person committing adultery. So the Jews understood this. That's why Jesus said when a woman was taken in adultery, he began to write in the dirt, right? And when he did that, the Jews automatically, he took his finger and he was writing. Well, guess who else took their finger and wrote on stone? It was God, right? Gave the law, right? So when he did that, that was like symbolic of God writing the law. And so they knew that because this woman was taken in adultery, that if they were also committed any adultery, they had no right to accuse her. Because part of the Jewish mindset was you could not judge somebody when you were guilty of the same thing. Then, boy, you would fall under harsher judgment. How dare you? And so Jesus got down and he began to write. And it doesn't say what he wrote, and that's not even the point. The point is that he was writing like God was writing the law, thou shalt not. And here were people that were willing to follow what the law said and stone somebody, but leave out the part of it that basically condemned them for judging and them being in a position where they weren't worthy to judge. You follow me? So anyway, he's teaching here, and he says, listen to the Amplified Plus version. It says, do not judge and criticize and condemn others unfairly with an attitude of self-righteous superiority, as though assuming the office of a judge, so that you will not be judged unfairly. King James Version says it this way: judge not, that ye be not judged. So you don't judge, because the judgment that you have to worry about is the judgment that comes from God, the judgment from above. You don't want to be judged by God. And so don't you judge. Stay out of the seat of judgment. You don't know what a person's been through. You don't know their life history. You don't know the pain they've suffered. You don't know whether they've been violated, whether they've been beaten, whether they've been emotionally, verbally abused. And so when people go through these things in life, and maybe you haven't, you have no idea what it takes for them to embrace change when they've been so wounded in their emotional being. And I know a lot of people don't buy what I'm saying, but I know in my own personal life, some of the things that I have gone through have caused me to struggle in my Christian growth and condemn myself, because when you get hurt in certain areas, it's kind of like physically, if I broke my arm, then there's certain things I couldn't do with that arm. If I'm right-handed and I broke my arm and it's in a sling, boy, there's a whole lot of my life that I'm not going to be able to perform, And so emotionally, you have an emotional being, and when you suffer damage, there's certain things that you can't do. And so there's certain people that come to church and come to our church, and yes, they are not living up to the standards and the code that you think they should. But guess what? Get out of the judgment seat. Because once you get in that judgment seat, you kind of left the grace of God. And you need to look for a judgment that's going to come towards you. And that judgment is coming from heaven. It says, don't pick on people. Don't jump on their failures. Don't criticize their faults. Unless, of course, you want the same treatment. I want grace. I want understanding. I want forgiveness. I believe in that what David wrote, that we are born into sin. We're shapen in iniquity. I endeavor in my own heart to live a life before God that pleases Him. But I admit to you that I fall sometimes. Even in my best, think about this. In my own mind, if I did the best that I could, there's things that I don't even understand, that I don't know might offend God, that I might live. And more than that, who I am on the inside is ever changing. It's from day to day. His mercy is new every morning. Every week I learn something more about the Lord and about how to live as a Christian. And so I'm learning not to judge myself. If any man be in Christ, he is a new creation, right? I learned not to walk in condemnation, but to run to God with my failures and with my faults. Now, are some people in situations where they should be further in their Christian growth? I don't know. Maybe so, maybe not. But guess what? I'm not the judge. I preach the word. I teach the word the way I understand it. I seek God for more knowledge, and I read. I try to stay studied to show myself approved, and I dispense the word. But it's not my responsibility to check what people are doing and make sure they're doing certain things. Now, when it comes to ministry and ministering, I have an obligation as a leader of the church, to put people in positions to be successful. And I know that if a person is struggling in certain areas, for example, if I know a person struggles with money, right, I'm not going to necessarily put them on the finance board, right? I'll put them in a different place, and maybe one day that struggle, won't be there, and they'll be able to handle that position. I'm just talking a little bit of wisdom to you, and I'm telling you what Jesus taught. He taught us not to be critical. It says, a Message version, the second verse says, that critical spirit has a way of boomeranging. It says, for just as you hypocritically, this is the Amplified Plus version, just as you hypocritically judge others when you are sinful and unrepentant, so you will be judged, and in accordance with your standard of measure used to pass out judgment, judgment will be measured to you. It's easy to see the smudge. Well, the Message says the smudge, but this is the passage that says, and when you look at the insignificant speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice and acknowledge the egregious log that is in your own eye. Or why do you do that? Because guess what? Judgment blinds you. When you decide to judge others, that means that, guess what? You are putting yourself in a position of superiority, which means that you are blind. Because if you really want to be blessed, blessed are the meek in spirit. Blessed are the humble. Blessed are the lowly. Blessed are those that mourn. Blessed are those that cry. Blessed are those that are persecuted and talked about because they serve the Lord, because they want to live for Him, right? So if you have the nerve to judge and stand in the place of judgment, oh my goodness. And man, we have to pray every day about this, because there's something inside of us that wants to kind of feel better by taking away from other people, right? Addition by subtraction. That's what we do. And that's what Jesus says, don't do. I don't want it. He's emphatic about this. This is important to him. Don't judge. If you're judging somebody, stop. If they have issues, if they have faults, it is their fault. If they offend you, forgive them. If they persecute you, pray for them, right? If they insult you, right, serve them. That's what Jesus is saying. And this is some hard stuff to do, especially because we are arrogant. And you know what? We take things very personal. To take something personal when somebody offends you means that means that you feel like this person has offended you and they've taken something from you, or they don't see who you are. They've disrespected you as a person. So obviously they're belittling you. In other words, in order to really take things personal where you hold grudges, you have to have a bad self-image. Somewhere on the inside of you, you're not comfortable with who you are. You don't see that you're fearfully and wonderfully made. Therefore, when somebody says something bad about you, it hits you, it takes it to your heart, because you already feel bad about yourself, and they press a button, and then you hold a grudge, and you want to get back at them for what they said or what they did. But if you feel good about yourself, if you're confident It's kind of water off a duck's back. Yes, you feel it, but it rolls off, because guess what? Nothing they can say and nothing they could do can take away from what God has given you and how God has made you. And you can rest in that. If you can rest in that, you can stop judging. Let's go a little bit further. It says, it's the whole traveling roadshow mentality all over again, playing a holier than thou part instead of just living your part. Wipe that ugly sneer off your face, and you might be fit to offer a washcloth to your neighbor. That's the Message version. I love the Message version. The other Amplified says, you hypocrite, you play actor, you pretender. First get the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. And of course, the King James Version, thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then thou shalt see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye. So check this out. If you're judging, you got a log in your eye because you're blind. And you're so blind that you actually think that we can climb up on a seat and judge other people, not understanding their journey, not understanding what their pain, not understanding their fear, not understanding what they've been bound with, and not understanding what God has freed us from, right? It says, do not give that which is holy to the dogs, and do not throw your pearls before the pigs, for they will trample them underfoot and turn and tear you into pieces. Now let's go. I want to go to Romans 2:1. That ability to not judge is a holy thing, right? And you are holy. We're called priests and prophets, people of God, salt of the earth, right? If that's who we are, don't take something holy, right, and cast it before the unholy. Value yourself. Guard your heart. Out of it, the Bible says in Proverbs, flow the issues of life. Understand that you're an instrument of God, that you're fearfully and wonderfully made. Don't let yourself get sucked in to hating other groups of people. Don't get yourself get sucked into this tribalism, this otherness, this other church, these other people that don't look like us, these rednecks, these Negroes. Don't get into it, because if that fills your heart, right, then it also will cause darkness, and it will cause you to fall under the judgment of God. Okay? Now, it says here, listen to this, Romans 2:1. Therefore you have no excuse or justification, every one of you who hypocritically judges and condemn others. For in passing judgment on another person, you condemn yourself, because you who judge from a position of arrogance or self-righteousness are habitually practicing the very same thing which you denounce. And we know that the judgment of God falls justly and in accordance with the truth on those who practice such things, right? But do you not think this, O man, when you judge and condemn those who practice such things, and yet do the same yourself, that you will escape God's judgment and elude his verdict? Listen to the Message version. You didn't think this, did you? That just by pointing your finger at others, you would distract from God's seeing all your misdoings and from coming down on you hard. Or it says, you didn't think, did you? That just by pointing your finger, in other words, you thought that you were doing addition by subtraction, but that's not what you're doing. You're bringing God's judgment down on you. Or did you think that because he's such a nice God that he let you off the hook? Better think this one through from the beginning. God is kind, but he's not soft. In kindness, he takes us firmly by the hand and leads us into a radical life change. That's what he wants. Doesn't mean that you don't see wrong, or you don't see evil, and you don't know that people are doing something bad, and you can't talk to a brother or sister and says, hey, you seeing that married woman is not pleasing to God. See, that's not judgment. That's standing for righteousness. Judgment is when you begin to look at a person and your heart begins to change toward them, and you begin to think that somehow in your mind you're better than them, instead of going to them with love and trying to correct them and help them, because you know that whatever they're doing is going to cause them harm, right? So anyway, I'm not going to say too much more about this, because I think it speaks for itself. And I'm talking to Christians, if you love God, if you are a Christian, then you know in your heart that you're not sent and placed on this earth as light and as salt to be a judge. That we have a judge, and we got to let him judge. And what we do is we rescue our brothers and sisters who have fallen. We help people and we correct them. And with love and kindness, the same that was given to us by God and by Christ, that's what we give other people. We help them. We're there for them, to consult them. You look for a teachable moment, a moment where you could speak into someone's life and you could hold them, because look, if they're bent on doing something wrong and harm is coming, then they're going to fall. And when they fall, don't look down your nose at them and don't tell them, well, you shouldn't have been doing it. Well, I told you. But learn how to hold them, pull them to your chest, and tell them I love you, and God will forgive you. And this is not over yet. But there's a place for you. There's a place that God wants you to be. There's a hope for you, and there's forgiveness for you. Take that forgiveness and come out from that thing that you're doing. And I know, because I used to do the same thing. I'm not judging you. As a brother, I feel for you. I know it's hard. But guess what? The Lord loves you despite the fall, despite your failures. See, that's the attitude that you have to keep as a Christian. Stop hating people that look differently, that vote differently, that say different things. Who cares who they back? Love them anyway. How could they vote for Donald Trump? How could they vote for Joe Biden? Hey, whatever, whatever they did, however they think, it doesn't give us a license to judge them and to hate them. Okay? That's all I got. I will be back soon. Give you a little bit more detail about what we're going to do, what the church is going to do. We're really going to, as my brother Rashawn, our media ministry head, says, we're going to pivot with the ministry, and we're going to do some things a little bit differently. So I'm excited about what's happening. Oh, and by the way, we had an outstanding service Sunday. If you weren't there, man, you missed it. I mean, it was awesome. First, it was just awesome to be back with people. But man, the atmosphere and the worship and the praise, it was just off the chain. The praise dance, you got to go back. The praise dance, I think they recorded that. Unfortunately, they didn't record the service. But Sunday, 10 o'clock, you want to be there. Don't miss it. I mean, we are having a good time.